The village of Lorne had always been an enigma. Hidden deep within the ancient forest, it was a place whispered about in hushed tones. Those who ventured there rarely spoke of their experiences, and those who lived there were never seen again. It was this very mystery that drew a group of researchers to Lorne, eager to uncover its secrets. As they entered the village, they were immediately struck by an eerie calm. There was no sign of life, yet everything was in perfect order. The cobblestone streets were clean, the houses stood undisturbed with doors ajar, and plates of untouched food sat on tables. Books lay open as if abandoned mid-read, and clothes were neatly arranged in closets. It was as if the villagers had simply vanished into thin air. The group split up to investigate, their footsteps echoing through the empty streets. Drive. Harper, the leader, approached a house with a peculiar charm hanging from the doorframe. Pushing the door open, he was greeted by the scent of freshly baked bread, now still and hard. He picked up a book from the table, noting the date exactly 1 year ago. Meanwhile, Alice, the youngest of the group, wandered towards the village cemetery. The sight that met her eyes sent a shiver down her spine. The graves were desecrated, tombstones shattered, and earth freshly disturbed. It was clear that something or someone had dug up the graves. Drive. Harper. Over here. Alice called, her voice trembling. The group gathered at the cemetery, their faces pale with shock. Who would do this? Muttered James, the historian. And why? The air grew colder as they examined the graves. It became evident that every single grave had been emptied, the coffins torn apart. The researchers felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. Suddenly, a low moan filled the air, echoing through the trees. The group turned, hearts pounding, but saw nothing. The moan grew louder, transforming into a chorus of mournful wails. It was as if the spirits of the dead were lamenting their disturbed rest. Something is very wrong here, Doctor, Harper said, his voice barely a whisper. We need to leave. Now. But as they turned to leave, the ground beneath them began to shake. Fog rolled in, obscuring their vision. Shadows flickered at the edge of their sight, and the wails grew deafening. The researchers huddled together, fear gripping their hearts. Out of the fog emerged ghostly figures, their faces twisted in anguish. They floated towards the group, their hollow eyes filled with sorrow and rage. The air grew colder still, and the researchers could see their breath misting in front of them. We must have disturbed something, Alice said, her voice shaking. We need to put things back, but before she could finish, the spirits surged forward. The researchers screamed, scrambling to flee. They ran through the village, chased by the wailing apparitions, until they reached the edge of the forest. As they crossed the boundary, the spirits halted, retreating back into the fog. The group collapsed, gasping for breath, their minds reeling from the encounter. What do we do now? James asked, his voice barely audible. We come back, Doctor. Harper replied, his face grim. We need to find out what happened here, but we must be prepared. Something terrible happened in Lorne, and we need to uncover the truth. With that, the group vowed to return, determined to solve the mystery of the abandoned village and the restless spirits. But as they made their way back to their base, a sinister feeling lingered, warning them that the secrets of Lorne were far darker than they could ever imagine. The group spent the following weeks gathering supplies and information. They pored over old maps and historical records, trying to piece together the history of Lorne. It became clear that the village had a dark past, filled with tales of witch hunts, mysterious disappearances, and a devastating plague that had wiped out much of its population centuries ago. When they felt prepared, they returned to Lorne, this time equipped with tools for excavation and various protective charms they had acquired from local folklore. As they crossed the forest boundary, the village once again lay before them, unchanged and unnervingly still. The group decided to start their investigation in the cemetery, hoping to find clues in the desecrated graves. They carefully approached the disturbed earth, the memory of the ghostly encounter fresh in their minds. Drive. Harper and James began to sift through the soil, uncovering remnants of broken coffins and scattered bones. Alice and the others kept watch, their eyes scanning the fog-laden surroundings for any sign of the restless spirits. Look at this, Doctor. Harper said, holding up a tattered piece of cloth. It was embroidered with strange symbols that none of them recognized. This might be a clue to what happened here. James nodded, examining the cloth closely. These symbols, they look like some kind of ritual markings. Maybe the villagers were involved in something they shouldn't have been. As they continued to dig, they uncovered more fragments, bones marked with similar symbols, and remnants of candles and other ritualistic items. It was becoming clear that the villagers had performed some kind of dark ceremony, possibly in an attempt to ward off the plague or another disaster. Suddenly, a chill ran down Alice's spine. She turned, feeling as if someone was watching her. In the distance, she saw a faint figure standing at the edge of the forest. It was a woman, dressed in tattered clothes, her face obscured by shadows. "Did you see that?" Alice whispered, pointing towards the figure. The others looked, but the woman had vanished. "I didn't see anything," James said, but the unease in his voice suggested he felt it too. "We need to be careful, Doctor," Harper warned. "Whatever happened here, it left something behind." As night fell, the group set up camp in the village square, lighting lanterns to ward off the darkness. They took turns keeping watch, but sleep was elusive. The village seemed to come alive at night, with faint whispers and distant wails filling the air. In the early hours of the morning, Alice heard a soft, mournful song. She followed the sound, drawn towards an old, decrepit church at the edge of the village. The doors were slightly ajar, and the haunting melody seemed to beckon her inside. Heart pounding, she pushed the door open and stepped into the dim interior. The pews were covered in dust, and cobwebs hung from the rafters. At the front of the church stood an ancient altar, upon which lay an old, leather-bound book. Alice approached the altar, the song growing louder in her ears. She reached out to touch the book, but a sudden gust of wind blew through the church, extinguishing the lantern in her hand. The room plunged into darkness, and the song ceased abruptly. She fumbled for a match, her hands trembling. When she finally struck one, the flickering light revealed the ghostly figure of the woman she had seen earlier, standing just a few feet away. The woman's eyes were filled with sorrow, and her lips moved silently, as if trying to speak. "Alice, drive." Harper's voice called from outside, breaking the spell. The match burned out, and the woman vanished once more. Alice ran out of the church, breathless and shaken. She found Dr. Harper and the others waiting, their faces filled with concern. "What happened?" "Drive," Harper asked, his eyes scanning the darkened church. "I saw her again," Alice said, her voice trembling. "She was trying to tell me something." The group decided to return to the church at dawn, hoping to find more answers in the daylight. As they entered, the eerie calm of the village seemed to weigh heavier on their shoulders. Alice led them to the altar and the old book. James carefully opened the book, revealing pages filled with the same strange symbols they had seen in the cemetery. "This is some kind of ritual book," he said. "It might explain what the villagers were trying to do." As they deciphered the symbols, it became clear that the villagers had attempted a ritual to summon spirits, possibly to seek protection or knowledge. But something had gone horribly wrong, trapping the spirits in the village and dooming the villagers to an unknown fate. Just as they began to understand the ritual, the ground beneath them trembled, the air grew cold, and the ghostly wails returned, louder and more desperate than before. The spirits emerged from the shadows, their eyes filled with pain and anger. "We need to finish the ritual, Doctor," Harper shouted over the cacophony. "It's the only way to set them free." With trembling hands, they followed the instructions in the book, lighting candles and chanting the ancient words. The spirits grew more agitated, swirling around them in a frenzy. But as they completed the final incantation, a blinding light filled the church, and the spirits let out one final, mournful wail before vanishing into the light. The village fell silent once more, the oppressive weight lifted. The group stood in the now peaceful church, their hearts pounding with relief. But as they packed up to leave, Alice noticed something disturbing. The old book had vanished, and in its place lay a small, wooden box. She opened it, revealing a piece of cloth embroidered with the same strange symbols and a note that read, ****, the ritual is incomplete. Beware the return." Asterisk asterisk, the group exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that the mystery of Lorne was far from over. They had only scratched the surface of the dark secrets hidden within the village, and whatever had happened there was not yet resolved. As they left the village, a sense of foreboding lingered, warning them that the true horror of Lorne was still to come. The group left the village of Lorne with a renewed sense of determination. They knew that to truly put the spirits to rest, they needed to complete the ritual properly. The mysterious note in the wooden box had given them a crucial clue, and they were determined to uncover the full story. Back at their base, they delved deeper into their research, seeking the advice of scholars and experts in ancient rituals. They consulted with a historian who specialized in arcane texts, an old woman who was rumored to be a descendant of the villagers of Lorne, and even a modern-day shaman who provided insights into spiritual practices. Through their research, they discovered that the original ritual had been an act of desperation. The villagers, fearing a terrible plague, had sought to summon protective spirits. However, in their haste and fear, they had misinterpreted the symbols and incomplete instructions in the ancient book, resulting in a curse instead of salvation. The final piece of the puzzle came from the old woman, who revealed a long-lost family heirloom, a pendant inscribed with the correct symbols for the ritual. With this pendant and their newfound knowledge, the group felt confident that they could complete the ritual and free the trapped spirits once and for all. Equipped with the pendant and a more accurate understanding of the ritual, the group returned to Lorne. The village was as silent and eerie as ever, but this time, they felt a sense of purpose rather than dread. They headed straight for the church, where they had previously encountered the most intense spiritual activity. Setting up their candles and other ritual components, they placed the pendant on the altar and began the chant anew. This time, their voices were steady, filled with confidence and determination. As they chanted, the air grew cold, and the ghostly wails returned. The spirits emerged, swirling around them in a spectral dance. But unlike before, there was a sense of calm in their movements, as if they sensed the group's genuine intent to help. The pendant on the altar began to glow with a soft, blue light, illuminating the church with an ethereal glow. The symbols on the pendant seemed to come to life, weaving intricate patterns in the air. "We're almost there, Doctor," Harper said, his voice filled with hope. "Keep going." The group continued to chant, their voices growing stronger with each word. The spirits drew closer to the altar, their anguished expressions softening into ones of peace and gratitude. The light from the pendant grew brighter, filling the church with a warm, soothing glow. Suddenly, the ghostly figures let out a final, collective sigh, and then began to dissolve into the light. One by one, they faded away, their forms dissipating like mist in the morning sun. The wails ceased, replaced by a profound, serene silence. As the last spirit vanished, the light from the pendant dimmed and then went out, leaving the church in calm, peaceful stillness. The group stood there, breathless and relieved, knowing they had finally succeeded. "It's over," Alice whispered, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Drive." Harper nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude and pride. "We did it. We set them free." The group left the village of Lorne for the last time, feeling a sense of closure and accomplishment. They had not only uncovered the truth behind the village's dark past, but had also brought peace to the restless spirits trapped there. As they walked away, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm, golden light over the village. For the first time in centuries, Lorne felt truly at peace, its dark secrets finally laid to rest. Back at their base, the group celebrated their victory, knowing that their hard work and perseverance had brought an end to the haunting. They vowed to share their story, ensuring that the lessons of Lorne would be remembered and that such a tragedy would never be repeated. And as they moved on to new adventures, they carried with them the memory of Lorne and the knowledge that even the darkest of mysteries can be solved with courage, determination, and a little bit of light.